You know what else was there? Until around the year 67, after which came San Francisco. To see a good rock and roll band, however, you had to go a long way. Envision a recording studio illuminated by amber. With his guitar, an elderly Eric Clapton sits by himself, his fingers following well-known patterns on old frets. The only sound in the room is the murmur of memories that will not go away. What stories would he be ready to share at 80? The 1960s were a time of color and sound revolution. A kingdom based on electric guitars and young rebellion was controlled by the Beatles and the Stones. Three souls became embroiled in what would turn out to be the most intriguing triangle in rock history during this turbulent time. Eric Clapton, George Harrison, and Pattie Boyd, the lady they both adored. However, what if the narrative that has been presented to us for decades is incomplete? After years of stillness, what if the music's true meaning is more nuanced than we ever thought? She appeared out of the fog of London like a vision. The model who won George Harrison over on the set of A Hard Day's Night was Pattie Boyd. She became more than just a Beatles wife because to her golden hair and mysterious smile, she came to represent a certain period. However, what occurs when a symbol needs to be human as well? When the lights cast shadows that nobody can see. Think about how Clapton's perspective may alter history. The young guitar deity who fell deeply in love with the wife of his best buddy. The man who filled Layla with that forbidden passion. Possibly rock's most fervent admission. Now, what could he say about those times? How much does that passion cost? I was so busy writing the songs. I was drowning in emotions that I couldn't control, as our imaginary Clapton may have reflected. Alcohol, heroin, and obsession. Was it love, even though I told myself it was? Or was I searching for something that I believed would protect me from myself? People witnessed a fairy tale. The stunning inspiration behind artworks. Layla, fantastic evening. Something. What intricacies might have existed behind closed doors, though, beyond these flawless melodies? The tabloids rejoiced when Pattie eventually left George for Eric in 1979, marking the inevitable end of rock's most dramatic love triangle. However, what if it was only the start of a brand new chapter with its own set of challenges? Could it be that a relationship as passionate and erratic was the result of two creative individuals, each plagued by their own demons? One in which devastation and inspiration coexisted? How may a relationship cultivated in the spotlight be affected by fame? What happens if a woman is never viewed as a whole person, but rather through the lens of the art she inspired? Perhaps no one bears a greater burden in the intricate world of rock mythology than the muse, who is imprisoned in songs for all time, but is never permitted to express her own reality. If Clapton made the decision to finally share his unvarnished story, what might he disclose? The human version, not the romantic one that sells records. Difficult, disorganized, and impossible to sum up in a 4-minute song? Maybe he would talk about times when the music ceased. When, despite sharing everything, fame and admiration were unable to bridge the gap between two people who had grown apart. Were there innumerable unrecorded moments of disconnect for each magnificent note on Wonderful Tonight? The emptiness that reverberates as applause fades and you're left staring one other across an emotional abyss. Were there private conflicts that neither was ready to engage in for each public appearance as rock royalty? Few partnerships made it through the crucible of the 1970s rock scene unscathed. Excess and temptation were there everywhere. Privacy has become as scarce as trust. Could anyone have made it through those seasons scathed? What demons still haunt Clapton during peaceful times now, decades later? In a past that has been so thoroughly mythologized, what may he want to make clear? The most significant discovery can be merely human rather than sensational. The realization that there is a more complex reality hidden beneath every iconic love song. That the art they inspire is always better than actual relationships. In interviews and autobiographies, the genuine Pattie Boyd has expressed her own viewpoint. The real Eric Clapton has talked about his struggles with addiction and his regrets. There are probably no antagonists in the true story, just flawed individuals attempting to connect under unusual conditions. The idea that the most exquisite tunes frequently originate from the most complex areas would be the one thing that Eric Clapton would really expose at the age of 80. Because muses are complex human beings with their own issues, never only muses. And that occasionally, a great musician's most potent revelation isn't controversy, but rather the plain, unadulterated reality of what it costs to make art that lasts. Ultimately, three lives were permanently entwined through music that continues to touch us today. Perhaps the true narrative worth telling isn't one of scandal or secrets. Which would you prefer, the ideal love or the ideal song? It's rare to acquire both, according to history.